Hey there, Danny with Right Foot Down. I messed up this ad read so many times because I really want to tell you about Track Monkey Apparel. They make great quality enthusiast shirts along with hats, stickers, watches, patches, you name it. A couple of my personal favorites are their Life is Better at the Track tee and their One Track Mind tee. You should really check them out and see for yourself. Their products are great for you or the gearhead in your life. Visit trackmonkeyapparel.com.
You're listening to the Untitled Car Show in partnership with RightFootDown.com. Visit RightFootDown for your daily automotive fix. If you enjoyed today's program, please tell a friend. It's the best way to support this show. If you want to visit the archives, go to YouTube and search for Untitled Car Show. That'll bring you to the archived episodes. If you want to follow this show, just search for Untitled Car Show on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You can always send an email to the show at untitledcarshow@rightfootdown.com. We're so glad you decided to spend the next hour or so with us. Without further ado, let's get into today's program. Welcome to the show. Today we have Alanis King. I almost forgot it. I literally just asked a second ago. She is are you still officially the weekend editor over at Jalopnik? Is that the title?
Yes, I am still officially the weekend editor, but now I'm also a staff writer, so I will be working Saturday through Wednesday for a little while until we find a new weekend editor.
Well, that's a good problem to have, is having to find another one. You did a fantastic job editing on the weekends, as far as I could tell. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the highest praise coming from someone who can barely spell, but let's kind of just start with the beginning. So you're basically the newest staff writer with Jalopnik.
I am indeed. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm also the youngest. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've probably owned your car longer than a majority of the other staff writers, which is probably weird.
Yeah.
So, how did you get? I'm very curious of how you started off, like, with Jalopnik, like, because you are, as we're speaking, graduating college from University of Texas, right?
Mm-hmm. I am. I graduate in, I think, 1 week, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, it's a bit nutty. So, but you've been working as the weekend editor for Jalopnik for how many years now?
Oh my goodness, it's been a year and 8 months because I actually just had to fill out forms for a home loan, and it has been a year and 8 months. So in September it'll be 2 years. Hopefully I'm not on weekends anymore by then, though.
So, it's basically sophomore year, early junior year of college, and you get the wild idea of working with Jalopnik. Like, how did it all happen in the first place?
So yeah, it's kind of crazy because I'm graduating actually in May, and I'm graduating in 3 years. So it was just my second year of college, and I had a professor during my first year of college who actually worked with Patrick George, the editor-in-chief at Jalopnik, at the Austin American-Statesman. And so I took this class, and I straight aced it. I got a 100 in it. And when the time came that Jalopnik was looking for a new weekend editor, my professor saw this opening, and he reached out to Patrick, and he said, hey, I have this student who really loves cars and did really well in my class, and you should go talk to her. And so it was so weird. One day I was on Twitter, and Patrick followed me, and Matt Hardigree followed me, and our account for Truck Yeah followed me. And I thought, okay, something's up. This isn't a coincidence. And soon enough, Patrick sent me a message, and he was like, hey, can you send me your email address? I'd like to talk to you about a position. And so he emailed me, and I responded, and we met up at a place near campus, and without even really interviewing me or getting into any of the details, he just said, look, I take what this professor says very seriously, and I regard it very highly, so if you want this job, you can have it. And I said, okay. And so I just took it, and I started the next weekend. And yeah, he didn't interview me, anything. He just said, hey, you can have this job if you want it, because I respect what this guy says, and if he speaks highly of you, I'll take it.
I mean,
And that's how
that's crazy to think about. So basically, you jumped right into it. So, I mean, it was a bit sink or swim, I guess, at first. Was it, I'm imagining, probably a bundle of nerves doing this? Or are you just cool as a cucumber?
No, it was absolutely a bundle of nerves, because most of the time when you're in college, you start at these smaller publications. You get to make your mistakes at these smaller places. You don't start out reporting on the national level and going, oh my goodness, I have to learn how to report in real time in front of a ton of people. And so it was so nerve-wracking. And I remember the first weekend seeing all the comments. I can't even describe what it was like to just watch the comments rack up again and again and again. I was like, there are so many people reading this stuff that I'm writing, and I'm so freaked out, and this is just really scary. And that was my entire first, 3 weeks. This is really scary. And I don't even know what to think. And then I was like, I don't want to read the comments, because what if they're mean, and people on the internet are mean, and oh my goodness, it was so nerve-wracking. But it's okay, because, I mean, I got used to it. I've been here for 2 years now, and I love the comments for the most part, and I enjoy them, but it's so scary, that first taste of, oh my God, a lot of people are reading what I'm writing. And so, yeah, it was an experience, for sure.
Well, were you familiar at all with Jalopnik before even getting into it?
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, I've always been a racing person, and I've always loved cars, but it was me being on this side of it that was so weird, because, I mean, of course I had read all of the different coverage of racing, of cars and all that, but being on the side where I was actually riding it was really, really freaky.
So I mean, prior to this, you're going to school. What is your degree in exactly?
It is in journalism. So I actually was really interested in doing the broadcast journalism track at the University of Texas, because my dream had always been to be a NASCAR broadcaster since the 7th grade. And they actually cut the broadcast journalism program. The senior class was graduating in it the year I started. And so they had cut the program. That was it. And so I just had to do print journalism, basically, just all of it encompassed into one. It was just journalism. So I actually went to the University of Texas, and I'm graduating with a bachelor's of journalism, which is very, very weird, because it's not a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. And they actually wanted all of the class rings are identical, and they wanted the side of my class ring to say BJ on it, and I said, that's not going to happen. And I threw a big fit with the school and the ring company, Balfour, and went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so I'm actually the only person who has JORN on the side of my ring, short for journalism, because I was not going to do that. And so, yeah, I have a Bachelor of Journalism. That is what I have, a BJ.
Well, I mean, you're getting into it, you're doing the journalism side. I was curious if there was any social media interaction. So you went from basically almost complete anonymity on the internet, to basically being thrown into the wolves' den when it came to, because Jalopnik is I would say one of the better comment sections on the internet, but it's still a comment section on the internet, which means everyone's got an opinion, and most of them are terrible.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
So, weekend editor, just year, 8 months. That's crazy at the amount of time that is. And, I'm sure it's felt like it's been, because I remember that age where, and I feel so old saying that, but where, time is simultaneously so fast and so slow. So, I mean, you're in school in University of Texas, which is in Austin, which is a fantastic city, which has really blown up in, maybe the last 10 years even. And I can't imagine, what that did to your social life.
Oh, I've my entire time at UT, I have been a full-time student. And when I got the job at Jalopnik, it's a 12 to 13 hour day on both Saturday and Sunday, because most of the time I'm the only person around, and I'm running everything. So I'm writing the blogs, and I'm putting them on social media, and I'm monitoring the comments and responding to the emails and checking our tips line and all that stuff. And so they are such long days that when I took this job, I was taking 15 hours at school, which is more than what most people actually take. Most people take 12, even when they don't have a job. And so I would be in class 5 days a week, and then I would work Saturday and Sunday, these long, long days. And so for the past 2 years of school, it has just been 7 days a week, constant, no social life, basically, because all I'm doing is working and doing school, and working and doing school, because I am very, very, I'm very much a perfectionist. So I have a 3.97 GPA, and it's kind of ridiculous. And so all I've done for the past year and 8 months, 2 years, is work. That's all I've done. And so now that I'm done with school and I have a full-time job, it's amazing, because I'm going to work 5 days a week, and then I'm going to get 2 off. It's amazing. It's great.
Which is so weird to think about when you're getting out of school, of doing less work when you're going to a full-time position. But it kind of echoes a lot of things. I've interviewed tons of people now, who knows how many people, and the people who do really well in the industry, or in any industry, they just work, because they enjoy it and they're good at it. And when they eventually get to that point, they end up working less somehow. It is kind of like the mantra I've always gotten, which makes sense. If you want to work for a publication like Jalopnik, maybe do a ton of work, because that'll get you what you need to do. And I'm sure you've already got to do all sorts of crazy fun things with Jalopnik, Yeah. But you said you wanted to be a broadcaster with NASCAR ever since 7th grade. So where did that come from? Let's go back to the blossoming of your car enthusiasm. Where did it all start?
Okay, so this is about the weirdest story there is. When I was in the 7th grade, my mom was at a food show, because she works for Cisco Food Services, so they sell food to restaurants. So she was at a food show, and she saw these guys who worked there, over in a corner, really secretive, looked like they were doing some kind of drug deal, which they weren't, of course, because it was a work thing, but they were super secretive, and it was weird. And so, of course, she figured there was free stuff over there, because why else would they be so secretive? So my mom is very much like, if you have free stuff, I'm going to get in the middle of it. And so she just waltzes on over there, and she's like, what do you got? What can you give me? And these guys were like, we have NASCAR tickets. And she said, oh, okay, can I have some? And so they ended up giving her 3 sets. So the Xfinity, then Nationwide Series race, and then the Cup Series race. So we got 3 tickets to each. And she brings these home, and she goes, I have some NASCAR tickets for a few weeks from now. And both my dad and I were just like, oh my God, that redneck stuff? That's what you want to go do? That's what you got tickets to? And she said, hey, it's free. The recession just happened. It's 2009, and we don't have vacation money for this year. So if you want to go do something, we're going to go do that redneck stuff. And so we thought, well, okay, if we're not going to go on vacation, let's just go watch these cars go in circles. And so I get there, and we pull up to the track, and we walked in, and every racetrack pretty much in their merchandise booth sells Dale Earnhardt Jr. stuff, because why wouldn't you sell Dale Earnhardt Jr. stuff? And so my mom points at this Dale Earnhardt Jr. shirt, and she goes, that's Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s son. And I said, who's Dale Earnhardt Sr.? And oh my God, it was so bad, because I had no clue who this guy was. And my mom was like, are you serious? you don't know the most famous NASCAR driver ever? And I was like, no. And so she started telling me about it. Then we went out into the stands, and one of the guys from the food show was sitting with us. And we watched these races, and as soon as these cars, like, got out onto the track and they got going and they took the green flag, it was amazing. It was the loudest thing. It shook the grandstands, and I mean, you could smell the tires, you could smell the fuel, the pit crews. It's just everything was happening at once, and these cars were going so fast, and it was never like that on TV, and I never picked up on that. And I was so taken aback by it that I was like, this is what I want to do. I've never known what I wanted to do when I grow up, but I want to do this. I know nothing about it, but I want to do it. That's all I know. I want to be with these cars. And so we were leaving the track, and my mom was trying to tell me some more about these cars, and because I was literally a clueless, like, 12-year-old or something in the 7th grade, 11, I don't know how old I was in the 7th grade, but I was clueless. I knew nothing. And she was telling me about these cars, and she was like, oh yeah, they're all V8s. And I said, so a car with 4 cylinders is a V4? And she was like, oh my God, are you serious? Are you, like, really serious right now? And I was that clueless. I did not know anything. And from that point forward, I watched every single NASCAR race. I tried to observe every single thing I could about cars racing and learn every single thing I could. And by the time we went back to the next set of NASCAR races, the guy from the food show who was telling me all about what was going on at my first race was asking me what was going on, because I knew that much at that point, because all I did for months was just absorb this stuff. And that's how it's been since the 7th grade. I mean, all I do is pay attention to cars. I haven't missed a NASCAR race since 2009, and that's all I've done. And it's crazy, because I got such a late start. I knew nothing about cars. I was clueless, and here I am.
It's fascinating to me that it's, you know, I don't think 11's a late start. I think that's an early-ish start. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just, I was very behind, is what I was so behind.
Well, so your mom had a bit of background in it then, did she?
Yeah.
Was she a bit of a NASCAR fan, or what was, like...
Actually, no. Her dad raced midgets when she was little, and I actually never got to meet her dad, my grandfather. He actually got killed by a semi-truck when she was 13, so I never got to meet him. But he raced midgets, and he did local races all the time, and so my mom always had a love for cars. Her first car was a Mustang, and she didn't wreck it. Her first car was a Mustang. She's always loved cars. Ever since I was born, she's had a manual Miata. She had a 5-speed for the longest time, and then she got to the point where it was having so many mechanical problems that she sold it to a guy who races Miatas, and she bought a 2008 6-speed. And so for as long as I've ever known, she's had the fun cars and all that stuff, and I didn't know for a long time that her dad was a racer, but she got her love for cars from him. And so I just finally, I just hopped on the bus a little bit late, and she goes, oh yeah, by the way, our family likes cars. And I was like, oh, well, cool. Now I know. Thanks.
So you're 11, you got a mom who drives a Miata, which is pretty badass. You're, bringing that, I'm seeing a mentality of just wanting to absorb every information and, be a bit perfectionist, like you said. Mm-hmm. So when it came time for you to learn to drive, did you learn to drive on that manual Miata?
She wanted to teach me how to drive on the Miata, but I was so stubborn when I was in high school, because you're always stubborn when you're in high school, that I actually had to learn on an automatic first, because her 5-speed had a lot of trouble getting into second, and so I would get so mad at it. So I actually learned on an automatic first, but then I learned later, and we're both going to rally school on Saturday, and so she's really excited because we're going to rally school. But yeah, we couldn't do my first we did my first car lesson on a manual, but actually learning how to drive the car, I had to learn on an automatic. I was too stubborn and mean and hateful when I was in high school, because aren't we all, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't sound like any teenager I've ever met. No, except for all of them. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, like except for all of them. And she was so frustrated with me. She was like, "Okay, I give up. You know what? I tried to teach you on a manual. Fine, we'll just learn it later." And I was like, "Mom, just let me learn how to dodge stuff before we go into the gears part, okay? Let me learn how to not hit stuff first." And so yeah, my first ever car lesson was on her 94 5-speed in a huge parking lot, and I was like, this is horrible. Like sensory overload, okay? I'm like 14, 15 years old here. Too many things going on. And so it was very not enjoyable for her.
Like, I'm sure she was like, I'm going to have this connection. We're going to learn to drive stick together. It's going to be hilarious. It's so what was your first car then? What was the car you got when you learned to drive?
So, because she always had the fun cars, and her idea of a fun car is, of course, the manual Miata, but her idea of a daily driver fun car is like a high-performance sedan, right?
Yeah.
So right now she has a 2015 Genesis with a V8 in it, and I kind of hate it because it has all those safety warnings on it, and it's just miserable, and it has the adaptive cruise control, which is miserable because I just want to go fast. And so she always had the fancy, often gas-guzzling cars and the Miata. And so when it came time for me to get a car, the void to fill was the road trip car. And so she was like, okay, well, you're going to get a car with really great gas mileage, and we're going to buy it new so I don't have to deal with anything without warranty. So we ended up actually getting a Hyundai Elantra, a 2012. Which gets like 40 miles to the gallon, so it was the perfect road trip car. And so I got to fill the void of family cars. And I've actually had the Elantra for, 6 years now? And as bland of a car as it is, we really have a connection. I'll get home from a drive, and I'll get in my car, and I'll go, I just really like you. Mm-hmm. Even though you're my little road trip car, I really like you. But yeah, so mine got to fill the void, basically.
There's something to that type of car being the first car that I really think is beneficial, because mine was an '04 Saturn Ion. After a brief stint in a Mercury Tracer that my ex-nun aunt destroyed anyway. So it becomes almost like an old dog almost immediately, where it's not fast, it's not quick, you're not going to go out and play with it on the weekend, but it just does what you want it to do, and it's always there.
You know what? That's exactly how I feel about it. And I was reading a couple of studies, I don't know, like a year ago, about if you've owned a car for more than 5 years, on average, like Americans in general, if you've owned a car for more than 5 years, you get really, really attached to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm at that point where I'm just very, very attached. Like, it's my little Hyundai, and it's nothing special, and it's slow, but you know what? She tries. Yeah. You know, you stick your foot in the gas, and, she tries to go fast. She doesn't go fast, but, I can hear it trying. And when I get in my mom's Genesis, the big old V8, it's just not fun to drive on the street, because it's an automatic, it's a V8. It's just, you tap the gas, and you're going 60. And to me, I like when a car tries. I like when a car tries. And so I just hate driving her Genesis because there's nothing to it, It doesn't have character.
I get that. There's no experience of acceleration. You're just immediately there.
You're there. Exactly. And that's why I prefer something that's like a 4-cylinder turbo, for a street car. I just have a regular old 4-cylinder, and it's really slow. But I would never want an automatic V8 as a street car because it's so boring. Now, if you could take that on a track somewhere, fine. But if I'm in a 45 mile an hour speed limit, what am I doing with it? It's so boring. Like, I had the DB11 out a few weeks ago, and it was super fun to get up to speed, but then I had to just slow it back down to 0 to have any more fun again. So it's just, I don't know. I prefer when my car tries.
That's a hot take there. Hyundai Elantra better street car than a DB11. I'm not sure how many people would agree with you on that one.
No, I'm not sure. Nah, it doesn't totally equate. I mean, I'd trade up. No, but I definitely prefer my Elantra to the Genesis. I'll say that because I just hate having all those safety. I hate having all those safety cues. Like it beeps really, 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 really loudly if you turn on the turn signal and there's someone next to you or in your blind spot. You can't even turn on the turn signal, and it just goes, wah, 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 and you're like, I'm sorry, what did I do wrong? I like having a basic car, kind of. Well, it's nice, it doesn't yell at me.
There is, I think James May said it, where like the connection you get with a base vehicle is much more visceral than the connection you get with like a, new modern sports car, simply because there's nothing between you and the, like, wheels, basically. It's
like I totally get that, and I totally agree with that because I mean I just don't want all the fancy stuff. I guess it's just not my style. I would rather not pay for it because, like when we were doing the Mercedes E-Class drive, all of the stuff in the manual, like you're not gonna get to all of that because there are so many features, and it's like you have all these features that are just sitting around because you don't know that they're there or you don't think to use them.
Yeah, I'm very curious because most Mercedes E-Class buyers I would put in the realm of don't know how a cell phone works. Like probably are the sort of people who ask.
So why are you going to give them a car that has like 200 features that they're never going to touch ever? Ever. And so it seems like such a waste to me. I would just rather I want buttons on my radio. I don't want a touchscreen radio. I want what's going to get me from A to B in my car. I don't want all these different features. It's crazy.
On the touchscreen radio, though, I have to agree with you because I've been driving my little Ford Fiesta ST, has a little touchscreen radio in it, and twice now in the last 2 months, the radio decides it's just going to stop working altogether.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which, on the way back from New York to D.C., like an hour into that trip, that's not where you want to have no radio and no ability to charge your cell phone. Not pleasant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, my mom's Genesis, within a week of buying it, the radio just went pitch black.
Oh.
Pitch black. And, I mean, what are you going to do? But my radio, I mean, I'm fine. I got my buttons, and I'm good. And I could have had a touchscreen radio because it was going to be Mom's travel car, for the family. So she was okay with it. But when I went in there, I started messing with it. I was like, you know what? I don't like this. I want buttons. I want it to be tangible. I don't want to just poke at things. I can do that on my iPhone.
So not a fan of self-driving cars then, I'm going to guess?
They are very freaky. Have you been in one where you just let it kind of take control? Like the E-Class isn't self-driving, of course, but you can let it control the throttle and you can let it control the wheel. It's scary the first time.
I don't trust it.
Oh my God. It's really scary. I shouldn't have, but I was sitting there letting it drive and I took a video of myself really scared. Maybe don't include that part, but it was really freaky because you don't know how much to trust it, and with the E-Class, it has areas that it can't sense, and so when a car merges, at least when we drove it, the sensors could not pick up a car merging, and so we let that car get as close as it possibly could to ours without hitting it before we hit the brakes because the car couldn't sense it merging. And it's like, how many things can you leave out to where it's dangerous? Like even if you leave out a sensor that would be used only in a super rare wreck, if you left it out and I'm not controlling the car and it wrecks, then it wrecked. You know?
Yeah.
I just there are so many bases to cover that it's a struggle for me to let a car take over. It is a struggle.
A good way to put it is like most crashes are human error, and that's what it is. But when it comes to designing and implementing a vehicle and a self-driving system, there's still a human component to that. So when it comes down to the vehicle crashing, like in my mind, I'd rather the human error be my own than someone forgetting a sensor somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly. And me, I can deal with a little bit of autonomy, but when we start getting into AI and like machine learning, then I get on my like Terminator platform and I'm like, the machines are taking over. This is it. We're done. I don't like AI. Don't like AI at all.
The internet can hear you. They're learning.
It's Skynet. It's Skynet. Like Skynet can hear me always. And you know what? Those cars are going to be Skynet. And when it's over, everybody's going to wish they listened to me.
I think Adam Carolla's got a good joke with like self-driving cars. The self-driving apocalypse. That the cars are going to lock the doors and they're just going to drive everyone into a lake, and then we're all done. Yep.
Isn't that going to be horrible? Isn't that going to be horrible?
And I'll be.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, that is my nightmare. Skynet taking over. Mm-hmm. That's it.
They thought they were going to nuke us. It turns out they just got us with the cars.
Yeah, it's just the cars.
It's such a weird place to be in, like, as a journalist, I'm sure, as a consumer, as a, like, enthusiast, to be, like, at this crossroads where you can kind of see where the future wants to go and, like, where we're coming from. And it's, I don't know, it's such a weird place. Like, would you ever, since you kind of got into this via the racing standpoint, would you ever watch self-driving race cars?
See, when they announced that Robo Race as the Formula E support series, it was so weird to me because to me when you watch people racing, you have to be connected with the people inside of the car. And if it's just a bunch of machines racing, it's super cool that all these engineers are feeding algorithms to these cars. But if I can't see that and I can't interact with that and I can't make a connection with the vehicles that are on track, I mean, where's my interest there, Yeah. Like, and so that's my biggest problem. Like, when they announced Robo Race, I was like, how am I supposed to be connected to this? How am I supposed to relate to this? And I'm just not sure. I'm really not sure. I think it would be interesting if they, like, blew each other up.
I'm all for that, yeah.
I know, right? But that would be kind of wasteful. But I think there's use in it. I think there's practical use in it, and I think manufacturers and engineers can benefit from it because of testing these self-driving cars in such harsh conditions, just like, I mean, NASCAR was back in the day. You test your stuff in harsh conditions. But I just don't see it from an entertainment standpoint doing very well.
Well, speaking of being connected to the racing, and you recently got a wonderful tour of, I believe it was the Circuit of Americas on the back of a motorcycle.
I'm alive.
There seems to be a weird connection of like editors from Jalopnik coming on the show after recently having the shit scared out of them by race car drivers. So we had Patrick George on the first time right after that like Camaro thing.
So yeah, that was fun. Patrick and his Camaro. Poor Patrick.
So, I mean, was it the scariest thing you've ever done? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
It was the most terrifying thing in the world. And the thing was, so we got this email inviting us to do it, and Patrick responds right away, okay, just right away, and says, I volunteer Alanis. And I was like, oh, crap. Come on. But I hadn't gotten a full-time job yet. I was still looking for a job. Patrick was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hire you. Like, it's not really up to me at this point. I was like, oh my God, if I get on the back of this bike and I don't die and I do this, you have to hire me. Like, there's no way you can't. But of course that wasn't like the deal. But I thought, okay, if I can prove myself, maybe this will work for me. I don't know. But I was scared to death, and I was like, God dang it, Patrick, why did you do this? Why did you do this to me? And so I was like, okay, I'll go. Woohoo! Yay, love bikes. And I broke one of my arms on a bike when I was little. My friend knocked me off of a bike when I was, I think, 4, and I shattered my elbow. So I was never able to get back on an actual bike without hyperventilating because I never learned how to ride when I was little. I was on training wheels when that happened. And the memory was just there. And so I never was able to learn how to ride a bike. And so I'm okay with riding passenger and stuff. But I was like, oh, great. Like, the bane of my existence, bikes, 2-wheeled things, and very, 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 very fast on a racetrack. This sounds like a blast, right?
Yeah.
So
like a fear factor skit. Like, we hear you're afraid of bikes, so here you go. Here's a motorcycle.
Right? Yeah, it was awful. And so we get there, and I wore all black because I was like, you know what? I'm going to sweat myself to death on this thing. And I don't want to have that embarrassment on top of being scared to death. And so I get there, and they put me in leathers right away, and those leathers are hot, of course. And they're like, oh, you're not getting on the bike for another hour, but we want you to experience what it's like to be at the track on race day and experience how hot these leathers are for the hour leading up into the race. And I was like, well, I didn't sign up for that. And then I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, dang it. I guess I'm just going to have to go figure this out because these leathers are stiff. And so I just, I stalled, and I, went to the bathroom because I was like, it's better if I go to the bathroom before I get really scared on the back of this bike. So I went second because I had to go to class after this. So I had class at 2:30, and this ride was at, 1 at Circuit of the Americas. And so I went second, and I was scared to death. I saw how fast the rider, Chris Ulrich, was going with the first guy, and I was like, oh no. Oh, no, I'm gonna back out. I can't do this. And they showed us, we had to hold on to a handle on the gas tank. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm holding on for the sake of my life onto a handle on the gas tank. This all sounds really lovely and foolproof, and this is gonna work super well. Yeah, totally, going super fast. And so they told us that the guy riding, Chris, he had a perfect safety record over 970 riders on the back. And they were like, it's okay, this guy has had people who are 6'5" on the back and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but that's not me. That's not me.
Yeah.
What if something happens to me? And so I get on the back of this bike, and I grab these handles, and he starts accelerating, and I'm like, oh my god, we're going into this turn, no, we're going too fast, and he's gonna have to slow down, because the first turn at Circuit of the Americas is ridiculous. It's that left-hand turn that's super sharp. And so every time Chris, the rider, was under braking, he would brake so hard because we were going so fast that your butt comes off of the back seat. So you're sitting here holding onto this handle, and your butt, it feels like it's 4 feet in the air when it's really not. It's just a little bit in the air. But your butt's on the back of the seat, your feet are slipping off of the foot pegs, and you're just holding on by your arms. And you kind of think about it, and you go, you know what? If my hands let go, that would be the end of me. That would suck. And the lean angles were so extreme that when I had a second to look down when we were going super fast, through the S's or whatever, I looked down and I was like, oh my god, oh, the racetrack's right there. Oh, the racetrack's right there. And I would just look right back up. And every time he was under braking, I would go, oh, no. And I was like, I really hope he can't hear me because this bike is really fast and he's got earplugs in because it's loud. But every time he was under braking, me on the back of that bike, out loud was going, "Oh, no. And he was like, if you ever want to stop, like, you can tap out, just tap your elbows against me and we'll stop." And I was like, don't do it, Alanis, don't do it. You can't give up. And we came around after the first lap, which the first lap was jarring. First lap was so horrible because, I mean, I won't say it. Okay, yeah, it was horrible. Because Circuit of the Americas is 3.4 miles long, a little bit longer than that. And so here I am, have been on this bike for almost 4 miles and have been on these extreme lean angles. And, I mean, it's one thing to control a vehicle around a racetrack or on the street or anything. It is another thing to ride along. It's a completely different thing. And so we finished this first lap, and he pops a wheelie on the front straight. He pops a wheelie. And I was like, oh my God. Like, just going through my head, there are 2 people on this bike, and there is 1 wheel on the ground. And it is going very, 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 very fast. It's like, this does not add up well. Like, this, no, my math says this is bad. My math says this is very, very bad. And then I was like, oh my God, we have another lap. I have to do that all over again. And I somehow survived. I did it, but I got off of that bike, and I was laughing in denial because I realized my own mortality. My body was shaking. And then I had to go to class all sweaty and disgusting, and I smelled like motorcycles. And it was really bad.
I like the fact that you had to go to class after that. That's like the icing on the top of the cake for me.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to change because we had to leave, and my fiance was there, and he recorded part of it, and he ran from one turn to the other, and so I had to go find him before I could drive back to class, and I had to drop him off because he was working at a track meet. And so I had to drop him off and then go to my parking garage and then run to class, which was on the other side of campus. And I get there and I'm in the same clothes that I was on this motorcycle in and like just covered in sweat and I'm just gross. But I made it to class, right?
Yep. Got to keep up that 3.9.
Yeah.
So
something like that.
Is there a race series that you would like to do less than that at all? Or is that like the worst possible one for you in the best possible way, I guess?
You know, yeah, like in the best possible way is really a great way to put it because when I was there for MotoGP a couple of weeks later, it's amazing how much respect you have for those people because you're like, seriously, you are nuts. And so, yeah, I mean, in the best possible way is just a great way to put it. But yeah, no, that's definitely the worst. Yeah, that's the worst thing ever. You know, I would rather do anything. I went out for the Vulcan track day a couple of weeks later at Circuit of the Americas, and they didn't, the PR people working with Aston Martin, they didn't tell us when to get there in order to drive on the track because we were going to be able to drive the DB11s on the track. And they didn't have a specified time, and by the time they decided it, they didn't tell us, and so I missed that window. But they let one of the drivers take me out in a V12 Vantage, so I didn't get to drive it. But I went out in it, and the guy driving was like, yeah, that was really crazy, huh? And I was like, no, not at all. No, that was literally like being on a freaking carousel. Mm.
Like you don't know crazy. I came from crazy.
Right. Like I've been there. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I know what crazy is. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it was literally riding a carousel was what that was like. Mm-hmm. And so he was just so hurt. He was so hurt, and I was like, nah, like you ain't got nothing, dude. Mm-hmm. No.
It's like you get out of the insane asylum and someone's like acting funny, and someone goes, "That guy's nuts, isn't he?" Like, no, you don't know what nuts is.
No, you got no clue, my friend. Mm-hmm. And oh man, like I just hurt that poor guy's feelings, but I don't really care.
Well, I'm curious. Are you familiar with sidecar racing?
Yes. Oh my God. And I've heard that's really scary. But even one of my friends who told me he's ridden in that before, he was like, I would much rather do that than be on the back of that bike. So I've never been in one of those, thank God, because I've had my meetings with death enough for the year, and I'm good. You
filled the quota. Well, what then? I imagine you would love to do a ride along in NASCAR.
I did one when I was younger. My mom won a thing from her job back when I was still, probably 14 or 15, and I was just really obsessed with learning about everything at the time. And she actually won one from her job, so I got to do that when I was actually pretty young. But yeah, I did get to do that. It wasn't anything compared to that bike. I'll tell you that. Nothing.
I'm sure it was exhilarating, though, at the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the G-force is nuts. But, man, it was a Sunday drive compared to that bike.
Well, changing up gears here completely, then, I'm very curious about... I want to get to this question for sure. So I asked this. I was trying to think, I need to come up with a unique question for you here, and I think I came up with the best possible one. So... For those of you who are listening who do not know, I would say you are obsessed with cats is a fair way to put it.
That's a very fair way to put it.
and you own a couple.
I own 3. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say own. I picked them up from the street. Mm-hmm. They were free.
They just wandered into the house one day. They were.
It happens. I mean, my door is always open for the cats.
So
not people.
If your cats were cars, what cars would they be?
Okay, so I took some time to think about this one today, and I came up with, I think, the most fitting answers possible. So, my first, well, actually not my first street cat, but my first cat I actually picked up by my own hands off of the street was Portia about a year ago. Today, it was June of 2016. She was in somebody's garage, and this cat was literally 3 inches long. She was the tiniest thing, and so I just plucked her out of this garage, and I had a cat named Brutus already, and so Brutus from Julius Caesar was married to Portia. So Portia's actually Portia Jr. because she's way too young to be married to my old cat, and so her name is Portia. So that we can fit the Shakespeare theme. And so I was thinking about Portia, and I was like, well, of course Portia's going to be a Portia, right?
Well, obviously, yeah.
But I think she was left behind on the street because she was the runt, and she's very, very weird. So if Portia were going to be a Portia, she would be a 914.
Oh, I get that. That's a good one. Yeah, little small car. Yeah.
She's very odd. She's going to be small for life. She has very, very small front legs and very small back legs, and the only part about her that's big is her stomach. But that's okay. But she's very, very odd. So I felt that the 914 was very fitting. So she would be a 914.
Oddball car for an oddball cat. You did put a lot of thought into this. I'm impressed.
I did. Man, I just went through the possibilities, and I matched my cats up with the best possible part. Then my other one is Brutus. So he's the 11-year-old. The other 2 are less than a year old, both of them. And I mean, he just gets so mad because he was like, I was the king of the house, and you brought in these street cats, and now I have these 2 young wild things running around. So he's very cranky. So if Brutus were to be a car, he would be an Alpha Julia because he seems all great on the surface. He seems like a very, very good cat, but he has some real reliability issues because he's kind of mean sometimes, and he's a bit leaky, and he does hateful things, and so he has his reliability issues. But you know what? On the surface, he seems all right.
Mm-hmm.
Julia.
That's pretty good. You can't help but love him, even though really probably terrible to own. No.
Exactly, because he is terrible to own, but man, I love him. Just like an Alpha Julia, right?
Yeah, that is perfect. I am thoroughly impressed. I did not think I would agree with you as much as I am at the moment.
And then my third cat is my little Sam. So Brutus and Portia are both black with green eyes. And then we found this little orange cat on the street when he was a baby too. So he was really little, and his name is Sam. And my fiance and my mother named him because I wanted to stick with the Julius Caesar names, you know, or the Shakespeare in general names. And that went out the window because they chose his name. But anyway, Sam is very bad. And Sam is super cute, but all he does all day is open cabinets and drag stuff out and destroy things. And so, Sam would be a Mustang because passerby think, like, oh, he's really cute, or oh, that's a really cool car of yours, or oh, great cat, you know? But all he does is destroy everything in his path.
Just running over crowds, or in this case, just tipping over stuff.
Yep, just pulling pans out of cabinets and stuff all day. Mm-hmm. And so Sam is destructive, and Sam would be a Mustang.
He can't help but be destructive, just like Mustang owners can't help but run over crowds.
Exactly. So I'm giving him a pass, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, you can't help it. It's just in your nature. That's, you know.
It's in his blood. Yeah. It's in his blood, you know? And so there are my cats. I have a 914, I have a Julia, and I have a Mustang.
Mm-hmm. That would be a good garage. And so
it would be a really unique garage. That's what it would be. And hopefully the Mustang wouldn't wreck the other two, because that would be bad, right?
Yeah. Or the Julia catch on fire and take out the other two.
Oh my God, and just set the other two on fire. Yeah. Brutus seems like, he would definitely, whatever the cat equivalent to setting on fire, that sounds like Brutus to me.
Well, let's see here. So we talked a bit. I'm going to my little questions here, but my little note thing is giving me a little issue at the moment. Okay. So, I'm curious about this one too. So if you're the weekend editor, you're new staff writer, Warren Buffett decides in his infinite wisdom that he's just going to come out and give you, like, I want to hear your ultimate story. So here's an unlimited budget. Go out and do whatever it is you want to do that's somewhat automotive related for a story.
You know, I was thinking about this, and for a long time, what I've really, really, really been wanting to do is just travel the United States and write about ghost tracks, because I don't know if you've seen, but I really like writing about ghost tracks.
Yes, I have seen.
Just old tracks that have been abandoned and are now being basically overgrown with weeds and things like that. I love writing about those tracks because it just, to go to one gives you the strangest feeling. Like, on one end it feels really cool and nostalgic and just amazing to see, and on the other end you're just like, this is the saddest thing in the world, right? Yeah. Because people used to come out here and they used to watch cars race every Friday, Saturday, even on the weekdays, you know, and that just stopped, and here this track is just like rotting into the earth, you know. And so I really, really enjoy doing that. And right now, I just kind of have to use my own resources to go to tracks that are nearby. And I guess when I travel for Jalopnik, if there's a track nearby, I'll go drive to it and take photos of it to use on the story. But if I had an unlimited budget, I would love to go around and do different mediums of stories about these tracks. Like, I would love to sit down with these people, like on video, who went and just watched these tracks, who went and raced at them, and do like documentaries, because these people are fascinating. A lot of the times they're older, because I mean they went to races in the 60s and 70s and things like that, and they just have these stories, just amazing stories, and you just meet the most interesting characters, and the emotion in their voices, I hope, is conveyed through my writing, because I wish people would hear these people saying this stuff, because it's amazing how connected they are to a place. And yeah, if I had an unlimited budget, I would absolutely love to just travel and do all of these different mediums of stories about these different tracks, just so I could catch all these different angles, because it's just fascinating to me. And my thing is with these old ghost tracks is that there's such little information about them online that once the people who went to these tracks and who raced at these tracks, once they're gone, I mean, all of their stories are going to be gone too.
Yeah.
You can find, like, Longhorn Speedway, you can barely find any information about it online. A lot of the stuff I had to dig from newspaper archives that didn't give me much information, but helped me piece together some of the facts. But all the rest was just people telling me stuff. And once those people aren't around to tell me stuff, and that's it. It's just this old track that's just crumbling.
Mm-hmm. I am fascinated by that. Didn't you have someone tell you to F off, basically, in one? Well,
Jesse James.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rumor is that when Sandra Bullock and Jesse James were married, she purchased Longhorn Speedway for him. Because, I mean, he's into motorcycles. He has West Coast choppers and all that stuff. I think that's his. I'm not sure. I don't pay much attention to Jesse James.
No,
but
no one else does either. It's not 2005 anymore.
Yeah, right. And so that was the rumor. And I went through all the public records, and celebrities are really good about when they purchase property and when they purchase things, they're really good about making the public records confusing, because they're celebrities and they have that ability. And so everything leads to Sandra Bullock owning it and still owning it pretty much. But I could not get confirmation from Sandra's PR people. I could not get confirmation from them, even though, I mean, everything leads to her still owning it. And so I was like, well, you know what? As a last-ditch effort, I will try Jesse James. But I guess I was just buried in schoolwork. I missed Jason Torchinsky's thing about Jesse James and the Beetle and the Nazi stuff. And I missed that blog. And so when I emailed Jesse James, he got back to me in like 2 minutes. Like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was his message. And I was like, okay, have a nice day. Bye. So that was basically it. I was like, dude, I was just asking you a question. Like,
yeah.
I wasn't going to put a Nazi spin on it, but just going to keep it like that. Maybe I will.
Yeah. The fact that you have, that they're in the conversation that you have with Jesse James, where you could possibly have an outcome where you're like, listen, I won't put a Nazi spin on this, is kind of damning in and of itself, I would say.
Right? Like I responded to his email and I was like, look, that was not malicious in any way. I literally just asked you a question. That's it.
Yeah.
Chill out, my friend. But you know what? If anybody wants to email him, you can find his email address online.
You know, it's funny you say that, because like a lot of people I get to interview on the show are not very good at protecting their email address, and that's a great way to get people on the show. Like, how'd you find this? It was on the internet. Like,
it was on the internet. You know what? Like, your email's on the internet. And, you know, I get plenty of emails from the internet, so Jesse James may as well too, right?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
So, since we're kind of at time here, I want to ask you a series of questions. I could talk to you all night, I'm sure, but I want to ask you a series of questions here about, since this is the podcast of record, we like to, you know, ask the important questions here. So, your fellow compatriot, Freddy Hernandez, kind of pointed out that I need to kind of, you know, prime these with, these are the answers in the moment, because, you know, our opinions as car people change sometimes day by day. So,
God, okay. I'm not very good at things on the spot, but I'm ready.
All right. Well, these are some easy ones for you. So, what is your favorite car?
Oh my God. You know, I keep thinking like somebody's going to ask me that and I'm not going to have an answer because I feel like I haven't driven my favorite car yet. Is that weird?
No, that's not.
Is that weird?
That's a good feeling that you don't know what you want until you meet it, but
And I don't want to tell you, like, this is my favorite car if I haven't driven it. Because how can I know that? But I don't feel like I've driven my favorite car yet. As weird as that is.
Okay, well, let me change this up then a bit. What is the favorite car you've driven, then?
Oh, favorite car I've driven. I'm going to be boring and probably say my mom's 6-speed. Favorite car I've driven.
That's a Mazda 6-speed?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Miata 6-speed. But, yeah, just because most of my time I've spent just watching cars, and I've, of course, started driving more since I got with Jalopnik, but I've been on weekends for so long that I haven't gotten to do a lot of our reviews yet, is the thing. And so I haven't been one who's been handed cars a lot yet. But hey, now that I'm full-time, I get more cars, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely say I like my mom's Miata because it's close to home, and I like it because it reminds me of my mom's love for cars.
Oh.
And I mean, I've driven a DB11, but it's just, I mean, you can only get so interesting when you're a V12 automatic,
It's basically a Ford Fusion, let's be real.
Yeah, that's what I would say, probably.
Yeah. All right, then. So what's your least favorite car?
Oh, God. Oh, my God, a Dodge Journey. Oh, my God.
That did not take any time at all.
Dodge Journey. They're the worst cars in the world. I hate them so much. I had to have a rental last year because I actually wrecked my poor little Elantra, which was very expensive to fix.
And that's how everyone ends up in a Dodge Journey, by the way, because that's how I ended up in one. So.
Oh, my God. They're awful.
Yes, they are.
I had a 2016 rental, and it was white, and it looked like a milk truck. And so every time I drove it, my fiance and my mom were like, "Oh, you're driving the milk truck," and I was like, "Oh my God, kill me! I hate this thing." And the row of seats in the back is so tall that you can't see out of the back, and it's like I was driving it, and I was like, "This is such a bad car. It just feels so bad. The transmission feels awful." It's like I was at a stoplight and I was like, you know what? I'm going to floor it and I'm going to see how this transmission feels. And it was like every time it shifted gears, it was like this jolt, right? It was awful. It felt like I was lurching through time. And it was just, oh my God, it was such a bad car. It was such a bad car. I just have horrible memories of it.
That I agree 100% with everything you said, having driven one. I hate those. I hate all, terrible Dodge products. Because Dodge is the best at making terrible cars.
And, it's like I cannot trust a Dodge now. Like, you can give me your Hellcat, you can tell me it's fast, you can do whatever, but I don't trust you because you made that journey.
Mm-hmm. We know what you did. The Avenger is worse in terms of transmission, just in case you're curious.
Oh my God!
You could put a gearbox in between each gear in that car.
Oh my God! I just hate everything. I hate everything, really. Just hearing that, it's so bad. But yeah, no, I really can't trust anything Dodge makes at this point because that was just awful.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible, and it just scarred me.
I got scarred on bikes and scarred on Dodges. I get it. So,
pretty normal.
Yeah, I don't blame you on either one. So what is your favorite modification trend? So this could be something you find yourself kind of attracted to and you don't know why, or maybe you don't hate it as much as you hate everything else. So we're talking stance, brodozer, truck nuts, eyelashes on cars, anything like that.
I dig people who stance their cars just because I'm like, how do you do it? How do you actually do that? Mm-hmm. Just because it's seriously, how do you drive on a street with a stanced car? You have to be really careful.
Especially in Austin. I've been down there. I've seen those roads. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's if you're willing to do that and you have the confidence in yourself to stance your car, you stance it, and I'm happy for you. But man, how? So yeah, I would definitely say stancing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then same question reverse. What is your least favorite automotive trend?
Oh God, I don't know. What's super obnoxious? I'm trying to think. I hate lifted trucks. I hate lifted trucks. Like super high lifted trucks. I live in Texas.
Yeah, the brodozers. Yeah.
Yeah, a lifted truck is like a monster truck in Texas, and it's like your truck is 3 times the size of my vehicle, and it weirds me out. And I hate when trucks have trailers on the back, like they're carrying livestock or something, and their mirrors are so long. I hate the way it looks. And that's just that's a very weird pet peeve, but it's a Texas thing. And we have people in Texas who have these giant trucks, and they get the halo headlights that change color, like rainbow colored halo headlights, and it's terrible. It's awful. Oh yeah, swingers are not. My fiance was just like, "What about swingers?" Because they're very big in Texas. They're a Houston thing, and so those are pretty bad too. Oh my God, those wheels. Ugh. So there are a lot of things I don't like, and it's pretty much because of Texas.
I mean, I get it. I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the people around you that you really learn to hate, because the people you know the best are the people you end up hating the most, I think.
I know, right? Like when you have roommates, you're just like, I can't stand you. Please leave. Yeah, that's how it is with these car trends. Like if you're around me, you'd probably get on my nerves. And we don't have many stance vehicles in Texas that I know of, so there we go.
All right, so what is the car then you dread to be stuck behind at a red light?
Oh my God. Any boring sedan or compact car I get really worried about, because I'm like, you're going to be so slow. And I just try to avoid it. Like, if there's a Camry in one lane and there's not in the other, I'm like, going to the other lane. Or like a Corolla, oh God, going to the other lane.
Anything but a Camry, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're going to make a friggin' dent in my car, you know? I don't want that. Yeah, any of the boring, really, really boring 4 doors, I'm like, no, don't want to be behind you. You're going to be slow.
You don't care about your car because you didn't buy an interesting one, so therefore you don't care about driving.
Exactly, and I don't want you near me.
Exactly. So what automotive sound or noise do you love?
Oh, man. God, I would say 40 stock cars taking the green at a NASCAR race.
That is a good one.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
What is the automotive sound or noise you hate?
Oh, probably a blown engine at a racetrack. It's just so depressing. So,
in the world of automotive, like we're talking like from washing the cars to, head of GM. What profession other than being a journalist would you like to try?
Oh, well, I count NASCAR TV reporters. I don't count them totally as journalists, because they have, of course, paychecks that they need signed by the entities that they report about. So does that count?
I would say that counts. Yeah.
Definitely a racing broadcaster.
On that note, can you answer? I was driving through the South years ago, and I was listening to a radio station, and all that was happening on the radio station, I swear I thought it was like redneck bingo, but I'm like driving down, like scanning through the AM station, and like be like 12, and like click, like 34, like click, like what the hell is going on?
I have no clue.
Someone explained it to me that they were calling in to talk about like who their favorite NASCAR driver was, but it was like,
that's amazing.
It was just like 54, click, like whoop, like.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's the best thing in the world. I get a really big kick out of true deep South redneck activities, and that's amazing. I love that, but I have no clue what that. Like I listen to Sirius XM because Texas is just like country music capital of everything,
Yeah.
and I just cannot stand country music. And so I just have my XM on, and if I can't find anything I like on XM, I listen to my Zumba music because I'm a Zumba instructor and I like Latin dancing.
So you're not getting to like, and here we got Cletus from Birmingham, 16. Like click. Like,
That's amazing, though. That's amazing. As long as they're not singing country music, I'm okay.
So, what profession other than journalism would you like to try, or would you least want to try? I'm sorry, I misread. Like, would you be the worst at? You think? Huh?
Oh, what I least want to try. Probably being a kindergarten teacher. I think I'm really bad at that because my people are cats, not children. My cats are my children because I'm not the best with human children. So I probably would get frustrated as a kindergarten teacher.
That makes sense.
And then I struggle. I'm like, what do I say back to you? Do you want to talk about the news? I don't know. Do you read the news? No, probably not because you're 5. So what do I talk about?
So blue, huh? Yeah, blue crazy. I mean, come on now. That's a crazy color.
It's a wild color.
Yeah.
Totally wild. Oh, God. Yeah, no. I really struggle thinking of what to say.
So then, this is something that we started in the last episode. And
Okay.
So you got a choice here. You got to drive one of the following for the rest of your life as your vehicle.
Oh, God.
You can have a stanced out Dodge Journey, or you can have your mother's Mazda Miata, but it's been turned into a lifted road dozer with giant mirrors.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I think I would die. Okay. I would have to go with the lifted Miata because I would rather go over bumps and be okay with my life, and I would rather not have to worry about any kind of ruts in the road or anything like that. And you know what? If I've got a weird off-roader lifted Miata, then that's going to get some people talking, but that Dodge Journey won't.
This is true.
But scrape the Dodge Journey, which would, show it how I felt about it.
Yeah, you could run over the Dodge Journey with the Miata.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, that is the only time that sentence has ever been uttered by a man. That is crazy.
But I'm sold. I would definitely run over the Journey with the Miata.
Mm-hmm. So, this is the last question for the evening, but I saved the most important one for last. I do think it is the most important question ever asked by a automotive interviewer, maybe by any interviewer ever. So, I hope you thought long and hard about this question. What is the hardest food to eat while driving?
Man, I read this one and I was struggling. Maybe yogurt. Because I'm not an eating while driving person, and I would say yogurt's the hardest thing I've eaten while driving just because I don't eat much while driving.
Are you familiar with a product called Go-Gurt?
Yeah, but I eat Greek yogurt because actual yogurt is filled with sugar, and Greek yogurt with granola, and if you got the granola on top of the yogurt in the cup, and I really like granola, so it kind of overflows, and so if you got the overflowing granola, and then you've got the yogurt under it, and then the granola's trying to spill, and then you're trying to use a spoon, and then, it's hard.
I'm trying to get with you on this, and I really just can't.
Did you not eat granola on your yogurt?
Well, I don't eat yogurt that's Greek.
It's like a yogurt cup. It's like a Greek yogurt cup, and then you've got granola on it. And, my granola ends up being, a mountain because I really like granola, and so it kind of comes to a point at the top. And, imagine having a little cup and a bunch of little granola flakes, and you're trying to balance them, and you've got a spoon and you've got the yogurt cup, and it's like there's a lot going on.
Okay, I'm kind of with you because there are those granolas which are like you bite into them and they basically just become flying shrapnel. Like,
yeah, exactly. And this isn't granola that comes with the yogurt. Like, this is from a box, and I mean, I took my liberty and I pour it, and I pour as much as I want, and that's usually a lot. And so, I mean, it's trying to fly everywhere, and you're trying to drive, and you've got a utensil, and you've got a cup, and you've got granola. It's hard.
I want to give you points on this one, but I'm thinking the granola is a little bit more of the pain than the yogurt itself. So maybe I'll give you some points on that.
Granola.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like the crazy like hippie granola that you like bite into and like turns into like a fragmentation grenade. That's up there because that's just messy.
That's me right there. All I eat is like yogurt and granola basically. So that's all my experience is. It's just that granola.
Mm-hmm.
I like granola.
Because the Everyday Driver guys said Kit Kat just because of like the hidden chocolate mess from breaking the bars.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But if you keep it in the package and you're holding the package, you should be okay, right?
Well, that's a good point.
Not breaking it with your hands, just like eat it from the package. But I hate doing that because I like breaking things before I eat them. Mm-hmm. like eating a banana straight. Like I like breaking the banana and eating the piece. And so, like, I feel that, but at the same time, you just got to do what's practical, and you can't break the granola. Mm-hmm. It's just there, and there's a lot of it when you're me.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some bonus points for the granola, but I'm
half a point. Your answer was half okay.
I think that's going on the non-existent leaderboard I have that I really need to make one day. Like that's not going to be up near the top, but that's a good one. That would have been an early contender early on because that's messy. Granola, messy, and then like a little bit of yogurt maybe just add in just for that extra like stickiness. So I'll give you some decent points for that. The more I think about it, the worse this is kind of getting. So
granola is messy on a table. Like I spill granola on a table, and so just imagine when you're moving in a car. It's just there's a lot of granola there.
That is a good point. Okay, I'm going to give you points for. I'm going to put that alongside the Kit Kat.
I'm good at arguing a point.
So that is okay. I'll put it up there with the Kit Kat because it's messy while not inherently being difficult to drive while eating. So that's where we're at with that. Yeah.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. So one day I will come to the crucible of that answer of like what is the most difficult one. So that is my goal in life. Like you're obsessed with all these like ghost tracks. One day I will find that hardest thing to eat while driving. But today is not that thing.
It's an honorable cause, and I'm sorry I could not fill that void in your life.
Well, you're helping by giving me some. There's a Venn diagram. This is what I need to do. I needed a Venn diagram of difficult to eat and like messy to eat, and then like in that middle, that little cusp in the middle. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, speaking of difficult to drive, the youngest one, Sam the cat.
Yeah.
When we first picked him up, my mom actually brought him home, and she was in the Miata, and he got really freaked out, and he was under the pedals, and so like he was under the clutch. Like running around because he was super little, and she was like, I really have to put the clutch in, and she was calling me, and she was like, the cat is on the pedals, what do I do? And I was like, I don't know, man. Sounds hard. See you when you get home.
Yeah, it's before I married my wife, when like we first started dating, she used to drive around sometimes with the cats just loose in the car. And I'm like, that is the most mind-boggling thing on the planet.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
They're bad.
Ooh.
Man,
that might be the answer. A live cat is the hardest thing to eat while driving. That might be the answer.
Don't try to eat the cat, but don't eat cats in general. Like, just send them to me because I want the cats.
Mm-hmm. And you have, on that note, I understand you have wet food in the car at all times, or dry food in the car at all times?
I have dry food in the car at all times. Actually, I have a full bag of food in the car at all times. And so when I see stray cats on the street, I pull over and I give them food. And most of the time they run away, but they see it's there and they can come back and eat it.
Well, that is a nice little note, I think, to go out on. It's been an absolute delight to have you. So obviously people can go find you at Jalopnik on, Sunday through Wednesday, you said, or was it Saturday through Wednesday?
Saturday through Wednesday now until we find somebody new as weekend editor, and then I'll be Monday through Friday. But yes, I am at Jalopnik.
Mm-hmm. And your social media where you want people to follow you, if you want people to follow you, basically give out the plugs you want to give out.
Oh, yeah. I am Alanis King on all of my social media, I believe. And Alanis is really weird to spell, so you can always find me on Jalopnik. But it's ALANIS in King. And that's on basically all my social media. So you can see my cats, you can see the cars I get to drive, and the places I get to go, and more of my cats.
Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be I think we need to reverse engineer the cats being cars thing. I think you need to start comparing every car you get to review to a particular cat in media. I think that's what needs to happen.
Right? I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. This car reminds me of this cat. People would stop reading my reviews. People would stop reading my reviews. I've actually tried to convince Rory Reed of Top Gear to do a Will It Cat segment on Top Gear, and we're slowly getting closer to that.
I hope one day that comes to fruition.
Me too. Talk to him about it. Everybody tweet him. Let him know.
Yep. Well, it's been an absolute delight to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm going to say goodbye to you off air. Everyone who's listening, will be right back as soon as I get the button to stop this. Thanks, everyone, so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard today, make sure to follow us on Twitter at Untitled Car Show. Make sure to go visit rightfootdown.com. Make sure to visit Track Monkey Apparel. Follow our West Coast correspondent, Ryan West, at Ryanator122. I think that's it for the plugs this evening. Just tell a friend if you like what you hear. It's the best way for the show to grow. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Have a good evening. Wherever you are, whatever time it is there, thank you so much for listening. Please be safe out there.